Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hello, welcome. I lost my guest. Where is he? There he is. Oh, technology. I just love it.
Sorry.
So welcome. That's okay. Welcome. And I just want to talk a little bit about my guest before I even go further today. And my little dog is on my lap. I don't know if you can see her. There she is. She's going to help me today. That's Gigi. So do you find that no matter how much you struggle, no matter how much knowledge you have, or how much effort you put into trying to succeed, you just can't seem to break free? I know that I have experienced that so many times in my life. There's these invisible barriers to success that are kind of in charge of us, like pulling the strings in our life. So for over 37 years, Michael Carr, who calls himself the mind alchemist, has been helping people get unstuck from that pesky inner resistance. He's a transformational coach who helps high-achieving professionals and entrepreneurs reprogram unconscious beliefs behind procrastination, perfectionism, burnout, and fear of visibility. That's important, so they can fully step into their true life purpose. He's the creator of the Vis-Ability Alignment Method, a neuroscience-backed process that helps people identify and reprogram the unconscious limiting beliefs so they can finally step into their lives and the leadership they are meant for. So that's a brief introduction of Michael. Welcome, Michael. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we're doing this together.
Thank you, Royce. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
So tell us, how did you get started? What is your story? I know that I read somewhere that you were really afraid to be seen. You didn't even want photographs of yourself. Tell us your story.
Well, I would say my story started out, I grew up in North Carolina in a rural area, and I decided at some point I wanted to make something of my life. So I went to New York. I became a fashion designer. I worked in fashion design for 20 years, and then I moved into interior design, and I was managing a lot of people. And this whole kind of idea of image was very important to me, of who I was and who I wanted to be and what other people thought about me. It was a very strong presence in my life. So I wanted to become everything that I could become. I left North Carolina to go be all these things and went into the world and had success, but I was always limited by my success in some kind of way. I would self-sabotage, I would do something. And there became a period between 1999 and 2018 where I refused to be in pictures. And when I say refuse, it's like I couldn't. I would break into sweats. I would get almost a mini panic attack. And I struggled this for a long time. And if you think about that time from 1999 to 2018, that's when our cell phones turned into cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Social media became a thing. It was like everything in life now required being in pictures. But I couldn't take a selfie. And I did everything I could to try to remedy that. I lost weight. I got 2 hair transplants. I worked out anything I could do, but it wouldn't help. And people hear that story and they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy who didn't want to be in a picture. Like I didn't like my hair that day. I very much wanted to be in pictures. It held me back a lot. I couldn't promote myself, and everything I didn't work. Everything I tried to get to look better, to smile in front of the cameras, it just never worked. And in my business, where image and art and everything was so important to be photographed and to be in, it held me back in so many ways. And so many opportunities that I had that people wanted to finance me for my own line, I was like, no, I'm not ready. And all these things that I've limited myself. And I did a lot of therapy, and I worked and worked. And one time I got some coaching on a general thing, which wasn't about that thing. It was more a general thing. And it was more of a conversation. And the guy asked me a couple questions, and all of a sudden, I don't even know what he asked me, but I was in the middle of my grandmother's living room at 5 years old, and my mother had abandoned me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember my grandparents and everybody around. And then later on, I was being sent to relatives' homes that were looking after me and said everything was fine, that my mother was in an accident, everything was going to be fine, but she was in a body cast. I couldn't go to the hospital. So all I knew was she was gone, and everybody was saying it was fine. And, I had lots of cousins where I would go stay, and I wasn't part of that family. I would kind of hide. Everything was different. I didn't feel belonged. And then it's like a flash went through me. Like I saw one of those decks at when you go to Las Vegas, those that do the cards. And I watched all of my life go by in front of me, and I saw all of the areas that I created being alone.
Hmm.
I'd never had a relationships. My parents died in my early 20s. My father's family sued me. My mother's family was feuding with me. I had a younger sister who lived in North Carolina, but I had no other family. And I moved to New York and lived all my life by myself. I didn't have anybody to call and turn to. And so I grew up without family. But I did have a younger sister that I kind of took care of, and then she ultimately got married. But I didn't have that presence, and I didn't have that feeling of belonging. And I had this identity in my head that I was alone. So it wasn't just showing up in pictures, that it was not showing up to weddings, to special occasions, to events, anywhere, because I couldn't be visible. And then I understood that limiting belief, that was what held me back.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And the next day I took a picture and didn't even think about it. I didn't even realize it till a day later. Oh my God, I took a picture yesterday, and it was actually got posted.
Wow.
That limiting belief, once I realized that it was so ridiculous to think that I was alone, because my mother loved me very much. And I grew my whole life thinking I would never think that I was abandoned. She took very good care of me. She loved me very much. So as an adult, I could never think that I was abandoned. But as a 5-year-old, when we're laying down these core memories,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just building that, we interpret things in our world like we want to do as kids. That's the whole purpose of, being in that state between 1 and 7, is to learn the environment around us, to learn how to interact with the world. And so that's what we're doing. And sometimes we misinterpret things. Like that family who took care of me, I always said I can't trust them, because they would have conversations like, can you look after Michael? I can't look after him tonight. I can't do him tomorrow. I heard it as nobody wants me.
Mm.
And I spent my whole life, who I've reconnected with most of my family in the past 5 years, my whole life making them enemies of mine because of something that I went through when I was 5.
Wow. Yeah.
And when that happened, I was like, I've got to change what I'm doing. I have got to help more people, because in my business, I knew a lot of people, very talented people, who somehow it seemed like around the age of 28, they were not living any longer. They had become done with their lives and exited. And you could see that like massive amount of this talent, and one was a make-up artist, and he worked for top models, and he had Naomi Campbell's phone number in his, Kevin Aquan is who it was, but these amazing people who people looked up to with so much talent, who just had these beliefs within them that just kept them from experiencing the life that they really had, because they were trapped in this fear cycle. And I see so many people that way to varying degrees, but we're trapped in our own prisons because we're not really looking at the bars. We're looking through the bars, and the bars are kind of our safety. And that's the whole point of it. The reason that we're resisting all this stuff is because your body is trying to keep you safe.
Yes.
Your unconscious mind has one goal, and that's to keep you alive.
Yep.
It does that any way that we can. And most of the way that does that is like, don't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Don't procrastinate, scroll and TikTok, and today we live in a world that is just, we live in an algorithm. So it's so much more critical to think about what's going on in our brain, because the algorithm is really focused on engagement. And what do people engage with mostly? Negativity, animosity. So that's the algorithm that's feeding us in the world today. So the only way out of that is inside my inner world.
Yep.
What outer world am I allowing to pollute my inner world? And when I mean inner world is kind of like, we know who we are. We know who we are. We've forgotten that.
Yes.
And so what we're doing is we are peeling away the layers of who we are not, who we thought we had to be to please other people, I thought I had to be invisible to get through the world because nobody saw me. When you peel that away, then you get to have the light that you are. I have no problem. I'm on camera all the time now, like I actually like it, and but I'm not concerned about, of course I comb my hair and I brush my teeth, but I'm not concerned about how I appear. It just, I get to sit here and express myself. And I can do that today. And 5 years ago, I may show up at a talk, but I would just be thinking about, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Don't look this way. Don't look that. Sometimes I get bug-eyed, don't do that. It's me. It's me. Why am I going to deny me all of those things? So we all have that, all have access to that. And my goal is to show people access to that. And also so that it doesn't take 20 years to figure it out. I didn't have a family. I took est back in the 70s. I don't know. It turned into a landmark. Yeah, like that's a whole nother thing. Because the world was different, right?
Yeah.
People thought we were in a cult. Maybe we were. I don't know. But everything was new. And these words like making a difference, like first time that word was ever uttered was in those rooms. That was the beginning. And so I've always been involved in this, trying to figure out, why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking? Why can't I have a relationship? I want one so bad. I worked so hard, did all the things, but it's not in the things and the doing that is not you. It's who you are.
Yeah.
So we try to get in a relationship and we try to be somebody that we're not who we are.
Yeah.
So that we can be pleasing to somebody else. Well, that's not related. That's not a relationship.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, and I think it all comes down to connection. Everything comes down to the connection that we create with other people, and most importantly, the connection that we create with ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's go back a minute. You had this realization, you're 5 years old, had this memory show up. How did that turn into what you do now? I mean,
well,
I can't get the question out. There's something got triggered in you that said, I've got to do this. This is powerful. What happened? How did that create your program?
when that happened, because I've always been interested in this stuff, I did the YouTube channel where I had, like videos. They weren't me talking, but they were videos about enlightenment topics like manifestation and the mirror principle and all of that. So I've always played on the edge, but I never felt like I could be a guide for someone or someone who could lead them. I mean, throughout my career, I managed interior designers, I managed fashion designers, I managed creative people in corporate worlds. So I was that go-between, and creative people are hard to manage, but I was able to listen and interact with them, not just so that they would do the work that they needed to do, but so that they could see the value in their work in doing it a certain way. And now those people are like directors of design houses. They're CEOs. One was the president of a company. So those things, when you can get people to see the value that they are, that's the most amazing thing that you could ever do. So when that moment happened and I saw those cards, and when I say that deck, it was a literal deck. I saw it in my mind. I knew this is it. This is it, what I've been looking for all along. And all I have to do is to find a process and a method that's easy to understand and that can get you there quickly and fast. And that I knew what it was. Then it became, let's find out how we can go faster. That you're not in therapy for 20 years. I was in therapy for a long time. I knew a lot about my problem. But the truth is, I didn't even know what my problem was. I thought my problem was I couldn't take a picture. That was the solution to my problem. That was the problem, that the solution my unconscious mind came up with to prove that I was alone, that I was not worthy to come home to.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So when I talk about the trigger, people talk about the trigger is the, oh, well, she said that thing and that thing triggered me. That's not your trigger. That's just what she said. You keep trying to get the word. I don't want to be upset by those type of words. That doesn't work. The trigger's in your body. The trigger's the feeling that goes boop. When you feel that thing in your body, that energy, everything is energy. When we feel that thing, it's like react. Well, that triggers like a warning signal. There could be a tiger over there. There could be this over there. There could be that, quick. And they're happening before our brain even registers it. Most of these triggers we ignore.
Yeah.
We don't feel. And so that trigger happens. And then our brain is just a question answer machine. So when there's a question, it's going to find an answer. It's not going to find a correct answer. It's not going to find a logical answer. It's just going to find an answer that it can live with. And so it finds whatever it is. And we may say it's because of this, but let's go deeper, go underneath that,
Yeah.
And so that led me to root cause coaching.
So tell us a little bit about your process. How do you actually lead people into discovering what's really going on and reconnecting with their true self?
So it becomes a lot of listening and a lot of the observation. And one thing I learned about not having a family, I wasn't a part of the interactions of a family. I wasn't in a unit like that. I was always on the outside looking inside. A lot of people adopted me and I became part of their larger families very easily. And what I got to observe is all of the interactions about who they were and how they related to each other, and how families within a family, people got identified as a certain kind of person in the family. And they always lived with that, even though I had come in later and I'd never seen that kind of behavior from them. But people would say, well, he's the bad one. Well, he's the one that's doing everything right. You're just not seeing him today because you're seeing through the old things. So as we get to those places, that's what's available for us. And so it's like clearing that out. And as an interior designer and as a designer, one of my best traits was being able to spot patterns. Patterns are trends. You're always following trends, and you're predicting trends. When I was making in the fashion industry and we were putting trends out there, we were working 3 or 4 years ahead because the curve of the manufacturing back then was so long. And then with computers and everything, it got faster. But I became very good at seeing patterns. And so now when I look at people and I say, well, he acts this way or he acts that way. No, he's running a pattern. This is the pattern that he's running. And it's really easy to see these patterns when you're looking for the patterns and you take the judgment out of it. Oh, well, they're this and they're that. And you just notice those patterns. You can see, oh, now I know the pattern and I see what they're saying. And what are they saying to me that they don't realize they're saying? The little stuff that's just the offhanded. And that's the stuff that you can go, because that's going to lead you down to a root cause, a problem. That for me, one of them was being abandoned by my mother. The decision, actually, I should say, I decided I was abandoned by my mother. I really was. But that was the decision that I made. And I kept fueling that decision throughout my life. So I know how much a life can be influenced by a decision you made when you were 5 years old.
Yes.
And yeah, it took me 20 years to it took me more than that to figure out what it was, but 20 years of not being in pictures to be able to go find that answer, to know what finding that answer means to somebody. It's like giving your life. Like I attempted suicide in my 30s. That was, it obviously didn't happen. And I remember when I came to and I saw the lady, she's like, everything's going to be fine. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, this is wrong. Right. And I think about that now, and it's scary because now I know what I had available to me. Now I know what life has available. It has to offer me. I couldn't see that in the place where I was. And I think so often, so many people are trapped in their minds by these negative beliefs that they have about themselves. They can't see any farther into hope. And sometimes it's not a conversation that's, I don't think you can ever talk anybody out of something. You can just listen to them. And listen to them and listen to them, and don't have to say anything back, because that's serving us. We're trying to actually feel better in the presence of someone who's feeling terrible. So I don't want to feel as bad. Let me lighten it up. Just go there with people. And if you go there and you can ask those questions and find those underlying things that you, like, my mother abandoned me. No, she never did. That's a lie. But a 5-year-old kid believed that. And then a 35-year-old man believed that too, because he never questioned it or never went there. And there's so many things in everybody's life. I think everybody has trauma, because we create our trauma. A little thing happens, a little molehill, and we turn a mountain into it. Every time we remember a past experience, we're not remembering the original experience. We're remembering the last time we brought up that memory. So every time we remember something, we keep adding on to it. So in 30 years, who knows what really happened? Was I really in my grandmother's room? I was, because I talked to her. But there's a lot of details that could be wrong. That could be me saying that my relatives are my enemies, that they didn't trust me, that they didn't like me. And we have so much of that right now going on in the world. We've got to come inside and we've got to say, like, how is my thinking creating my world? And how can I change my thinking to have the things that I want? So noticing those patterns would be the first part of it. And then how do we make the process quick? Well, somatically, because, there's all this conversation about mindset and all this, and mindset, and we go in and we do root cause coaching, which was great when that started happening. You get to the root cause, and there's all these layers. And so it's not just mindset, because the mindset will last for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it becomes willpower, and then it becomes burnout, and then it becomes proof that you couldn't do that in the first place.
Yeah.
Why? Because all these emotions and memories that we don't want to deal with today, we file them here, we file them here, we file them in our arthritis in our back hip, and we file them. We'll deal with them another day. I don't want to deal with them today. So we're burying all these in these file cabinets, these issues and these problems. And remember when I said a trigger is just a response in your body that you feel, energy, and the brain is going to answer that. So the brain's just going to start pulling out those file drawers of emotions. This is why. And then you're set living in like, oh my God, I'm back in that emotion that I had years ago. Well, that emotion doesn't exist today, and only in your mind, but you're freaking yourself out because you're living in it in your mind. So how do we get the results faster and the clarity faster? We start to use the body. We don't just use the mind. We put the body into it, and it's a simple process that includes, it was developed, it's called the cellular alignment techniques. It was created by Tyler Watson. Over many years, he was a kinesiologist and a massage therapist, and he holistic medicine doctor. And so he's combined a bunch of things that we all know about in a certain way that actually has it like hijack our system. So when that trigger happens, and that if you think of the trigger, that energy in your body, like waves of, if you threw stone into a still pond and the ripple that came from that stone is the trigger, then the ripple is that energy being sent to the rest of your body, telling your body to react, flight, fight, or freeze, what to do, because there's danger. So that ripple effect is the energy that's going to your body. We use tapping to interrupt that ripple. So as it's sending the energy to your body, as soon as it happens, where do you feel it in your body? Right here. Let's keep it right here, like tap here to keep it focused here so it's not going throughout your body. And then imagine if that rock into the ripple, we threw a handful of little pebbles on top of those big ripples. What happens is those little waves dissipate the big waves so that it interrupts the signal. The signal doesn't know what it's carrying anymore. It doesn't know what its meaning is anymore. It's just kind of hanging out like, okay, something weird's going on. So we've interrupted that thing from going out throughout your body. And now we use breath work. So breath work is one of the most probably the most powerful tools we have to regulate our emotions in our body. And I mean, it involves everything. We think it's just moving air around. It's so powerful. So we force you have the trigger, then we'll force you into a calming breath, like in through your nose, out through your mouth. Think about it, come home at the end of a day and you finally get to relax and you're like, oh, and you send all that air down into your stomach where your calming breath goes and you're just calm. So you add that tapping to that, and we're doing the calming breath work when we're supposed to be upset. And then we turn around and we do a fight or flight breath, which is like a panting breath, which is like you're running from something. So we just calmed you down and we're triggering you. And now we're just putting you fight or flight, saying it's okay. And at the end, you smile, which releases dopamines and fixes it all in. And so your body's like rewired. That trigger doesn't mean the same thing anymore. Now we're loaded with triggers, but you can remove them all. It just takes time. And the way to do them is to find them. And you had mentioned at one point where maybe it was even in the introduction, you said about what do you say with people who struggle so hard and get to all those places? Well, your growth comes from your struggle. So, and we all start here I've got this mountain to climb. And so we started going to the mountain. Well, there's valleys to get to that mountain. There's all kind of things, and it's hard. But when we learn those valleys and we learn how to do those things and scale those mountains, we know how to do that. So now I know how to do that, but now I want to do another business. Now I want to grow my business. Now I want to get more clients. Now I want to do something else that we don't know how to do. So right now we're at level 1 again. We're actually on level 4, but we're at a level 1 expertise skill level that we've either got to learn or hire somebody else to do it for us who already knows how to do it. And that's a trap a lot of entrepreneurs fall in. They've got to do everything themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot don't succeed. When they can see, like, it doesn't take you 20 hours of watching YouTube every time you want to do something in your CRM. You can just tell your VA, do it. And in 10 minutes, they do it because they know. So you're learning not only that what you have to do, but you're learning, you're becoming smarter at how can I level up my resources that I have to use them to the fullest extent, which then becomes leading. So you're leading other people.
Yeah.
And each one of us is a leader. So these things live inside of us, you know, and it's just getting in touch with those things. I was on a call this morning with my client who she was last week. She really went in on me. She got very angry and she was going at me and I'm sitting there and I just kind of had to look up like, what is she talking about? And she was talking about me. But she wasn't talking about me. I was just the space for her to do what she needed to do.
Yeah.
And so today we had our next session from last week and she's like, and at the end of today's session, I want to talk to you about business. I'm like, okay, we'll see what's going to happen. And so she sat there and she told me everything that happened during her week of things that turned out really well that she had stepped out on a limb to do and scared about, and they turned out better. And she reframed all that. And I said after 30 minutes, did you celebrate all those successes that you had? And she's like, what success?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, let me read them back to you. And I read them and she said, well, I didn't really see them as successes. And then she blew open. She's like, you know, last week when I went off on you, I don't even know why I did that. And I have to apologize. I'm like, I'm your coach. It was the best. It's what had to happen. Because without that happening, you wouldn't have had the guts to do what you did all week, to go and stand up for yourself like you stood up with me. You got a little experience. You got a little confidence. So you went out in the world and you tested and things turned out good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're not seeing that. It's important that we start to see that. We start to track that. But when we're living in this behind those bars and we don't know what those bars are, we don't even know what we're inside of. It's my duty that I think is to help people see their bars.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to take a bit of a break. I'm talking to Michael Carr, and we're talking about those invisible bars causing us to not succeed and to resist and be afraid and triggered and all that stuff. And we will be right back.
Om Times TV. Do you crave joy but feel stuck? Do you go through life feeling constantly triggered and frustrated? Fear is likely the culprit, and subconscious fear is likely sabotaging you. Perfect Life Awakening is a time-tested, spiritually based approach to inner transformation created by Royce Morales. For over 40 years, she has helped people get to the origins of subconscious fears and ultimately help them find their true purpose and a life full of joy. Sign up for Perfect Life Awakening today at roycemorales.com. You deserve to go from triggered to empowered, shifting your life with Perfect Life Awakening. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Michael Carr, and he calls himself the Mind Alchemist. I love that title. And I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying. And I keep bringing up that memory that you had when you were 5 years old and felt abandoned. So do you help people get in touch with that type of event or experience in terms of releasing and getting in touch with the decisions and that sort of thing? So that's part of what you do.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the core of what I do. The other stuff helps it go faster. It just helps you get rid of all of that thing. But finding out those core beliefs, I think, is critical.
Yes.
And getting to that is, and at some point, like, people can come into you for coaching and they're like, well, this is my problem. I can't get a raise. And then ultimately, after talking for half an hour, we end up with the core root cause, which it didn't matter that it came from money. It could have come from relationships. It could have come from, because it shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I don't like to talk about when we find that root cause, like my mother, I was abandoned and now I'm fixed and I know that. Well, that abandonment, then I understood it was about me being alone. And being in a picture is not tied to being alone. So I severed that relationship between the trigger and the reaction. So the trigger had no effect on me. It was my sister. It was around Christmas. And my sister says, we were at a spa and she's like, take a picture. We took a picture. And the next day she said, you didn't even argue with me. And I was like, what? So when you sever that trigger, then that goes away there. But we've still built on top of that. It's like a Jenga box game.
Yes.
The core thing is down here. Like, you could remove the core thing and it just makes a tunnel, but all this other stuff is stacked on top of it. So you've still got other things to work with. Now, I do think once you find your core limiting negative belief, you have so much power and understanding about yourself, just knowing that. You know, and it's all about creating an awareness within you. The things that we're not aware of, we can't work on. We can't help. We're just a victim of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about creating this awareness and like, oh, wait, now I have this awareness that my go-to place is that I'm alone. My go-to place is that people don't like me. And then I'm like, well, no, that's just my go-to place. That's not how it really is.
Yeah.
The truth is I stopped calling people back because I decided they didn't think I was a good enough friend of mine. That was my decisions.
Yeah.
And I built more of those on there. So there's always work to do around that. And, you know, the whole thing about being on the next level, the next level, and the next level, like, there is no top level. I mean, there is, but nobody's looking forward to it that I know of. You know, I mean, the end of the game is the end of the game. So if we're in a game, we either play the game or the game's going to play us. So you can get comfortable with struggle. I mean, you know, the pain that we create is the pain that we feel. we're creating all that pain. Like, oh, she left me a year ago. A year ago she left you. How is that painful net today?
Right.
Event happened a year ago. You're creating that pain today 95 times what it was back then. You're manufacturing that. And so it gives you kind of an awareness. This is how our brains work. Now, there was a great thing. It was designed that way for instinct. And there were tigers. Well, today's tigers are like negative comments on social media.
Right. Yes.
Criticism, like all of that negative stuff. Like there's a million at them. We can't get out of the door. And so we're all operating on this stress level because we're under high alert. And there's no winning that game. And it is all back to coming to being present, because the present is all we have. When you can see that all those thoughts and past memories are just thoughts and memories, they're not real. They were like a timeline that we passed by. My favorite quote is by Soren Kierkegaard. Life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forward.
Yeah.
And, you can think of anything in your life, like that job you didn't get, or that guy who didn't ask you to marry him, or anything like that. And you can say, like, thank God that didn't work out.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's the principle.
Yeah.
So, the plan that we've got in our mind is so much inferior to the big plan when we get out of the way. So when something happens that I say is negative, or that I say I want to get on this podcast or that podcast, and they say no, I just go, thank you, universe, for protecting me and leading me in the direction that I know that I will not understand this until I look back on it. Why
Right.
I didn't get this. So it's a very good place.
It all makes sense in retrospect. So go back to what you were saying about struggling. I think that part of us, and I talk about this a lot in my courses, part of us feels very comfortable struggling. It doesn't feel safe to have things flow and be effortless and things working out, and I always talk about fear of success as being a huge issue for us. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back from when we were 1 and 7 and we started making these decisions about life that are going to hang around for the rest of our lives. Like, 1,000 years ago, over a course of 400 years, culture didn't really change that much. There weren't new versions of tigers and new better kind of things to eat you. But today, if you think about when we were born and the kids are born today, it's a completely different life.
Yeah.
Completely. So the struggles are always going to be, they're always going to be new. We could call it evolution, in a certain way, because we are evolving. To think that we're not evolving is crazy, because ever since the planet was here, it's always been evolution. So we are changing. What does that look like? No one knows. We can see a lot of scary stuff if we think about it, like AI and all that. But it's here. So to think about that's a negative thing, and that's a struggle, and that's going to be something that's going to kill us, is not beneficial to us. We can take actions to kind of prevent that from happening, but to go doom and gloom, no. So that struggle is the learning part of life. And we do get into that kind of, like you said, when people are the fear of success. Well, I had a fear of success. I would be seen. That that's the whole thing. And we develop these things for safety, these ideas and these decisions to keep us safe. And when we look at the world today, it's the things that we're facing are so much different than our body was designed to handle as instinct came along, because now everything is like in your mind. We use our bodies much less. Our bodies, we sit at computers. We don't pay as much attention to our body, because when we're doing physical things in the world, we're very conscious of our arms and our legs and where we're standing. If we're building a house, if we're gardening, When we're making physical things, we have to watch for our fingers. We're very aware of our body. And now we stand and we type and we don't even feel our fingers. We're just like these immobile brains. And so we've lost that connection with our body to keep us aware of who we are and what's going on with us. And now we're just in a constant, frantic state with anxiety and all of that.
Yeah. So tell us, kind of walk us through a quick way to kind of align with who we are, or allow ourselves even to experience deserving success or connecting with who we are. Is there something you can just kind of talk our viewers through to just kind of get a sense of what this is really about in the real world?
So first, I would say start paying attention to your body. So when you get yourself triggered, or when you feel triggered, there's something that happens that you're in the grocery store and someone cuts in line with you and you're like, oh, where do I feel that in my body? Number one, where do I feel it? Just say where I feel it. Where I feel it here, and tap it. You've created an awareness that something's going on, that you're aware that you're having a reaction. If you don't become aware of it, what happens? You broke in front of me and I'm not having it today. That's a reaction. But because the feeling happened, what we're going to do, and we reacted. When you feel it here. I'm reacting. What does it feel like? Okay, it's scared of something. What are you scared of? It's nothing to be scared of. Nobody's around here scary. She just asked me a question. What are you having for dinner? And I'm like, I forgot, and just feel that. And you're like, wow, my body's talking to me, and become more and more aware of your body. So you can start using your body and like, hey, I'm safe. I'm safe. The fears, you're making up something in your head that's making you fearful. You're safe. Mm-hmm. And start being in touch with it there. And then when you're experiencing these things, like these negative things, start to question, is this true? Is this really true? And to think about the thinking that you have, journal, write it down. What are the thoughts that are actually going through my head? I have journals. I journal all the time. Randomly, I'll go and look like a 5-year-old journal and read that. Like, who wrote this? What kind of place was I in when I wrote this? Good or bad? But then when we write it down, we can actually see, like, okay, this is what's in my brain. When it's just floating around here and we're not looking at it like a second person, we don't question what it's saying. If you're telling me a story that's really crazy, I'm like, well, Royce, let me point out this. This doesn't make sense. We don't do that to ourselves. We just keep going and making the story more interesting. Mm-hmm. And more, we're more of a victim because we didn't succeed what we wanted to exceed, which just builds us up to not be able to succeed it. It's life. We can go out, we can do whatever we want. We have no rules. The only person who's judging us is us, and we're living in the trap that everybody else is doing that. We're the ones doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That judgment. And then when you understand that, it becomes much less of a struggle. It's just like, okay, here's just like another thing that I have to go get my tires changed, go get some air in the tires, get the tune up. Like, we'll do stuff. And like, there's a lot of stuff that we say, oh, I hate doing. That's easy to do. It's easy, but we make a big story that it's really hard. It takes 10 minutes. I'm doing a speech tomorrow. I put it off writing it for 2 weeks. And I'm knowing that I'm doing it. And I'm just like, okay, this is a process that I'm doing it somewhere in my mind. I'm making it be this way. I know I'll write it. It's pretty much done already because it's tomorrow, but I just trusted myself that I would get it done. And I didn't go into my mind about all the terrible things that can happen because I'm putting it off. And actually what happened was I was on another podcast, and then I was on another course that I got information from that I wanted to add into my speech. And if I had written that speech, I would have been rewriting it. So allowing myself to be where I am, and I aligned around that. I'm like, this is where I am. So the process of alignment is very simple. So do some coaching. This is just one of the quick techniques that I can show you. But if I'm thinking like I'm not prepared for my podcast, for my speech tomorrow, and I waited too long to write it. It's a new topic that I'm inexperienced. I might mess up. I'd have these thoughts and kind of write down 3 or 4 of them. And where do I feel that? I feel that in my chest. And what does it feel like? It feels like a void, a hollowness, like a big vacuum. And I just think about that vacuum. And as I use tapping, so I'll go through it quickly. The tapping is just, I'll tap to isolate that spot. It's like that place in the water where we threw the big stone, creating the ripples. That's what we're holding right here. And then I'll say tap like we do in EFT tapping. I waited too long to write my speech. It's not going to be as good as it could be because I waited too long. I always wait too long. And that's okay. I forgive the speech, and I forgive the listeners, and I forgive myself. And then I'll do this tapping from the forehead to the C7 around the back. It's, to me, I tap like 6 or 7 times, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this tapping is like us interrupting the body neurology, the nerves that are sending the signals from here. So it's interrupting that pattern. We're kind of like throwing the little rocks on the big one, dissolving it. And then we're adding our breath into it. So we're adding, here was the trigger. I'm not prepared. I forget. I said all the tapping words. I'm releasing it. I tap here, in through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And now I'm going to force myself in from that calming state, because remember, I got triggered. I forced myself to go to calm. I'm diluting the message that's going through the ripples. And now I'm going to force myself into a panic state, a fight or flight state, by panting. And at the end, smile, which kind of solidifies or releases endorphins, dopamine, all that stuff. And it solidifies, clears out that trigger that was there. So the reality is, it doesn't matter when I wrote my speech or not. I'm giving it tomorrow. It's going to be a speech given. I don't have to have all that thinking in my head that it's going to be terrible. And then I can go even farther, and I can go, it was great that I waited so long to write my new speech, because it's going to be very authentic. It's going to come from my heart. It's going to come from the way that I talk, and it's going to resonate with the people who are there, because I'll be able to interact with them, and then I can align with that. Mm-hmm. So that's squeezed into like a little spot. What it is that coaching to find out where the thing, you do it really quickly yourself. I feel that in my body now. What does it feel like? What am I thinking about that? What decisions that I make about the feeling? What are the decisions that I'm making about this is happening? It means I decide it means this. I'm just changing the way I decide. I'm not going with my old pattern, because now I'm conscious of it. I'm taking that old pattern out. I'm putting a new pattern in there. And then I just have a choice. I can go give my speech. I don't have to, oh my God, do I need to cancel? What if all of that nonsense is gone?
What about, we only have a couple of minutes left, but I just wanted to put this out there. Part of the work that I do helps people to identify the belief that was triggered. So for example, if I put off planning my speech and I'm noticing that, and I'm realizing, oh, wow, what's going on here, I would then tap into, well, I believe that I'm a terrible speechwriter, or I don't deserve to have people listen to me. There'd be some connection with some kind of ridiculous false belief that I have. Do you do that with people? You have like 2 minutes. Do you do that?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's exactly what you do.
Okay.
And you do it fast. And so you're releasing, like, however, in a 3-hour session, I'd have all kind of sessions. But in a 3-hour session, you can release a lot of stuff. If you've got one particular area, and you release it at a cellular level, like we go through your chakras, we go through your Chinese elements, we go through the meridians, all of that stuff. It's very thorough.
Good. Well, yay. Awesome. So tell people how to reach you. We have like a minute
So my
left.
website is there, michaelcarrcoaching.com. You can go find out information there. And I'm going to open up the appointments for the next 3 or 4 weeks, where you can book an appointment to me to get a free session where we will actually give you a breakthrough. And I'll take you through this process properly. You'll feel the shift immediately, and then you can go out and take action. So it's a free 45-minute breakthrough session.
Great. Well, keep up the good work, the good, important work for this world, for everybody that would like to get unblocked and manifest their success and their greatness and their amazingness. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, Royce, for having me on today. It's been a great experience.
Thank you. And I will see everybody next Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us.